Alright folks, welcome to the Besides Are On podcast. We're starting video for fucking a weird reason this time. Craig has left the podcast, unfortunately. He's doing like we can't talk about it. It's an anonymous podcast he's doing, so we can't really talk about it, but he's doing something else, not this one. But today in the studio we've got Paul Boggie. Awesome, man. Awesome. So I hesitate to call it a studio sometimes as well, but because it's just a living room.
Yeah, a living room.
So how was it finding the place, man? Was it alright? You want to move closer to the mic, Paul, if you can?
Yeah. It was alright. Sat-nav playing its usual tricks on me, so initially I ended up going to the wrong house, but it was literally only 2 minutes away, so...
That's what happens sometimes, man. It happens actually quite a lot here. Sometimes people like gather like up the road a wee bit, or sometimes at the bottom of the road, but you're like different street. So
Sat-nav's fault, no mine.
That's it, man. That's it. So we've got you on to discuss. We had you on the podcast before. Let's go into that first. I would say. You want to tell us a wee bit about your story, like a wee summary or something like that first?
I will do a summary. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. I do this a lot, and sometimes I can talk for...
It's great. Ramble on as much as you can, because it gives me less work to do. It's perfect. So,
right. So
do as you must.
I'm from Edinburgh, 41-year-old. I was integrated into a gang for an early age, and then kicking around on the council scheme and stuff. The people that I was in the gang with were just friends that I went to school with, for all different ages. Then I dabbled in drugs. Never really took them that often. Alcohol and stuff as well.
What sort of things were you doing at that time? What kind of drugs were you hitting? Like at that point before heroin?
I think the first thing would have been alcohol. Like a lot of the people in the gang were in their...
It's everybody's first thing, innit? Usually.
Yeah. I mean, they were in their mid to late 20s when I'm 11, 12-year-old. So we didn't have to worry about where the alcohol... They were drinking.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a lot of them were alcoholics, so they were drinking every night. Bottles of Mary Down, Buckfast, cans of the super strong lager and stuff.
Shit, you were at that on an early day. I've never had one. I keep hearing about it.
It was just... That was the strongest alcohol that they could get for the least money.
Oh, yeah.
And then it only becomes a matter of time before alcohol comes your way and you're asked to drink it, sip it. Yeah. You know, and I always remember my very first time sipping alcohol. I hated it. It was a beer.
That is shit.
Like, the taste. But when you were there and all your pals were drinking it, it was like the big hard thing to do. You're 11, 12-year-old, you're there with 20 of your pals, you've got one can, everybody's sharing it, passing it around. And when it comes to you, like, the last thing that you're thinking about is saying, oh, this is shit, and then spitting it out. Because everybody else is making out that it's amazing, and they're adults because they're drinking alcohol, sort of. So I remember drinking it and thinking, that's not very nice at all. And then, so it was alcohol. Alcohol was always there. And then glue and gas sniffing was quite a lot. It was happening a lot in those days. I never touched. The only time I ever touched was a tin of gas, and all these guys that I knew were cutting around with long sleeve tops with their hand missing, and they had something inside their sleeve, and they were always with their hand up at their mouth like that. Never really, even back then, I never knew what it was that they were doing. I remember a couple of times they threw a can of glue away, and I went over and put my nose in it and sniffed it, and it was like that really quite strong smell.
It's quite rancid, aye.
And I just couldn't understand why they were doing it, because it smelt so badly. I now know it was obviously because they were getting high off it. So that was, the older guys were definitely glue sniffing, and tins of gas were always about as well. And the one time I remember giving myself a bit of a fright was one of my friends was buzzing a tin of gas. It must have ended. He threw the tin of gas away.
Right. And
I was out short in my parents' house. I remember seeing this tin of Caller gas my mum and dad would use to fill up their lighters in the house. And I went over, everybody went away. And I turned my back and I picked up the tin of gas. And I'd always watched them pushing it against their teeth. The nozzle. I didn't know, like, must have been 11 or something. I had no idea what they were doing, but I was curious.
Oh, yeah.
It's that curiosity. What are they doing? They're doing it. Should I be doing it?
Oh.
And I remember the can was empty because that's why I'd threw it away, but there was still a tss. So I remember putting it against my tooth and pushing it in and hearing that wee tss, and I was like, got a fright, and I threw the can away. And that was it. I never ever went back and never tried anything like that again. Cannabis was always on the scene. I always knew the smell of cannabis without knowing what it was as a little boy. And then as we got older, I remember, like, starting secondary school, my friends were all talking about chipping in 50 pence and a pound to get a £7.50 bit. And it was like...
I remember that shit from back in the day.
Yeah, and it's like... it was like 12 of them, like all my pals that I hung around with. So I would be like, well, I'll give you a pound, or I'll give you 50 pence, you know. And so we got the £7.50, we went and got the cannabis, and I remember going to the flats and everybody was sitting rolling joints. A lot of them were failing and they were bursting open, and like, I just watched. So eventually we'd got a few joints rolled. We went up to Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, up the hills, and sparked these joints up. And then I remember I'd smoked cigarettes. So I knew about inhaling.
Right.
You know, like to inhale a cigarette, so it's the same with this joint. So everybody's smoking it, acting cool. Like the alcohol, it's the same thing. It was everybody was acting cool, and it came to me. And then I smoked it and inhaled it. And it was like, I didn't like it. Very similar to alcohol. I didn't like it.
Aye.
So,
well,
you know,
there's a reason for that as well, because it is weird. Because like, drink tests shit. Let's be honest with that. It still does, isn't it? And we sort of get a tolerance for it as we go through the years and stuff. And some people like really do enjoy like drinking whiskey and stuff like that, which I didn't understand, never understood to this day.
Yeah.
But weed, again, is really strong in your throat a lot of the time. So it is quite obvious that you're like, you're not going to like it the first time.
Wasn't going to like it, but it was the in thing.
Aye.
Like, not just within our age group of the gang. All ages were doing it, even guys younger than us. Everybody was smoking it. And I don't know if everybody else was thinking the same as me. Is that it's not very nice, but we're going to do it anyway because everybody else is doing it, and you want to be part of the gang. So we smoked that a little bit growing up. Other drugs were on the scene, although I never dabbled with them. You know, your amphetamines, ecstasy, and magic mushrooms, LSD, which looked like stamps. You know, it was such a strange thing to see my pals with this, what looked like a 1 penny stamp, and seeing them putting it on their tongue. And I think, like, what's that going to do to you? You didn't think it's not going to do anything. And then an hour later, they're cutting around thinking they're Bruce Lee and stuff. You know, and it's just like, wow, like, such a mind-altering drug.
LSD's so fucked up.
Yeah, it's just the craziest drug ever. I've got a story about the very first time I ever took magic mushrooms, but that happened. So, growing up, I dabbled, and then at the age of 18, heroin flooded into the area.
Yeah. We
all knew what heroin was. We all knew of people that died of heroin, using heroin, and our area hadn't really been affected by it so much growing up. And then at the age of 18, I'm 42 now, so over 2 decades ago, it's just flooded in, caught everyone off guard. And before long, almost everybody was taking it. Within this gang of people that I grew up my whole life with, people that you would never expect to ever take drugs, certainly no heroin. You would never expect these people to take them, and they were taking this drug. And then obviously, through time, I tried it, and it was the same. It was the same as the alcohol, same as the cannabis. This stuff smells like burning raw fish.
Was it that? Right.
Right, so I'm chasing the dragon, so that's smoking it. you know, and a bit of tinfoil with my tutor. And it's such a horrible smell. And then to smoke it, again, inhaling it, instantly, my pores opened up. I'll never forget that. My pores just opened up and I just sweated. I remember feeling sweat on my chest and on my back, which I'd never ever felt in my life before, like without running around. I'm just sitting there, just profuse sweating everywhere, and I felt green, like really, really no well at all. And then I went back, and I often get asked when I tell the story, people are interested, like why go back? And when I think back to then, I didn't like the way that it made me feel. I didn't like the smell. But I think even at the age of 18, I still wanted to be part of the gang.
That's it, aye. That makes sense to me.
And it was like, if I didn't take this drug that all my friends are taking, I'm going to be left on my own with no mates.
We've got a similar story. There was a guy we took acid with the first time, and he refused to do it, but he's done it since then, and he sort of eventually just sort of started doing it because everybody else was doing it. He was the one that he would be in the room while like 7 or 8 people are on acid, and he's like the only fucking sober one. He was the one that was doing the chores for us, basically, trying to help with everything, and he's now like into it. Yeah. So totally understandable again.
And I suppose maybe a lot of people will relate to that. Aye. That maybe that ended up going on to have drug problems like what I did, but certainly it was a just being part of the gang, and I think we deal with that all through life.
Aye, fuck aye.
You always want to be part of the gang. You want to be liked. You want to be part of the team. Then you want to be outcasted, because if you're outcasted, there's a chance you're going to get bullied all the time, and nobody wants to get bullied because you witness it through school. You witness it through the gang. For 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, you've seen people getting picked on. You didn't want to be picked on, so you're cutting around with these people that are doing the picking on other people. You want to be in with them. Yep. You want them to like you, so that they didn't pick on you. You know, and that's what my life was like. Forever trying to be accepted by these. Some of them are absolute lunatics. Oh. They were back then, and they still are now. You know, they're absolute lunatics, so you just want these people to like you. But I started with the heroin, and then my life pretty much changed, like, within 2 months.
I said it was a fairly short time, like that took you to recognise that you were...
It was taking it every day, which I never thought was a problem. I was quite naive. There's no needles. I'm not getting addicted. Not get addicted. Like, I'll stop this whenever I want. Right. So we would go up and get the heroin every night. Go to the same place in the car. Sit along at Portobello Beach on the promenade. Sit and smoke it every night. Every night. I was driving. So I would have them all in my car, take them up and get it and stuff. And then we used to joke about it. I remember joking about it. You're addicted to heroin, Boggie. And I'd be like, no, shut up. I'll stop whenever I want. I says, yous are all addicted. And everybody's all joking and laughing and stuff. I'll never forget that. Like, the whole joking and laughing about being addicted to heroin back then. And then there was a drug bust. I remember being up in the car, driving up into the area, and walking in, seeing the police cars driving around, and the meat wagons, which is the police vans, we call them meat wagons. But the police vans driving around and stuff, and the streets were so quiet and empty. We drove up, and my pal, who was getting the heroin at the time, got a text saying there's been a bust. They're busting all the drug dealers' houses. So then we were like, right, what do we do? So we were sitting in the car, and I remember looking round at my pals in the car, and they looked ill. Right. They all looked ill. They had been smoking heroin for 2 weeks longer than what I was. I was the last out of the group of about 11 or 12 years to start taking it. So they'd already been doing it for 2 weeks, and I remember turning around and thinking after a couple of months, this is the first time that we weren't able to source it. And looking, and they were all they just didn't look right. Their eyes were watering and stuff, and they were moaning sore stomachs, and sat there for hours and hours. Then eventually we got it. As soon as they took it, they perked up.
Right away.
Like, you could just see a change in them. And then...
Did they get their colour back in their cheeks and everything like that? Like, everything comes back?
Aye. So, I mean, the thing obviously with taking heroin is that you go from a state like I'm sitting right now to that.
Aye.
Within the source, the time you taking the drug, that's what it's there for. That's why they're doing it, is to get that sleepy feeling. So after they would smoke the heroin and stuff, everybody was like that, drooling.
Aye.
All my pals, and I'm not saying that they all done it, and I drooled as well, but I can't.
You're noticing everybody else. You can't visualise you doing it.
I can't see me drooling.
You're not sitting in the mirror just like...
But I'm looking at all my pals, and the drool's dripping for their mouths and stuff, and they're out of it, and it's like... Even at that point, I still couldn't quite grasp what was happening. And then it was a few weeks later, there was another drug bust.
Aye.
And then it was my turn. It was my turn to be sitting in the car and feel like absolute shit. I felt like absolute shit, and I was experiencing what I witnessed them experiencing those few weeks prior. I was getting horrible pain in my stomach. My eyes were just watering. I felt shivery and cold and just no right at all. And even then, before I'd got the heroin, I didn't really understand what was going on. And I think I was maybe choosing to not acknowledge what it was. Again, we waited for hours and hours. I got the heroin. We went back to the usual place. As soon as I started taking heroin, it was like,
just away.
Wow.
Is there a certain thing, like when you're waiting outside, because you could be waiting for hours? I've seen some people like travel for hours, like just looking for a bit of weed sometimes.
Aye.
So I'd imagine heroin, there's a lot less people sell it, I'm assuming. Again, so it'll be much more difficult to find. And in the midst of drug bust and stuff as well, you're having to like worry about that. There must be a stress level, and adds to that fucking illness that you're going through trying to find everything.
The anxiety that we go through, or the anxiety that we went through, was horrendous.
Oh, aye.
Now, the way that it worked in our group, I'm not obviously saying any names, right? So, the way that it worked in our group is there was a ringleader. He was the one that sort of introduced us to heroin, and he had the connections with the heroin dealers to get us the heroin.
Right.
Now, when we spoke about getting heroin, all the money had to go to him.
Right.
He was the only person that was able to source the heroin. So we would always give him the money, and what that done was numerous arguments. I argued with him like cat and dog all the time, but it was a dangerous environment that we were in. So he was like, give me the money, I'm going to get it. If you go and get it, you're going to get stabbed and you're going to get robbed, so give me the money. I know them, you didn't, give me the money. And I'm like, well, just come straight back, because he would always come back like he'd heard something. And am I allowed to swear, eh?
Aye, of course.
Aye, so I was like, I used to say to him, what the fuck are you doing? How the fuck do you look at your face now? I say, he's been, no, but I was sitting, sometimes he'd leave us for an hour and a half, sitting in the car, rattling, cold turkey in, right? And it used to blow me up, like, and I'm driving, right? So I was like, fucking my car, like, I can't leave him, I wanted to, but I couldn't leave him because he had my money, that was to get my heroin. So he was always the one sourcing the heroin. And he used to dike the bags and all that. That was standard. Take big bits out of our bags before we gave them, and that caused many arguments as well. But even like the drug dealers in that area, they're all linked. They all know each other. They all know that each other is selling it. But to actually try and source it, it wasn't easy. We always had to go through this one guy to get it, and that left us in cold turkey situations a lot,
for hours at a time as well.
Yeah, because if he was able to go and source his heroin at any time of day that he wanted, once he'd had his heroin, and he's gouching and sleeping and he's fine. He's not got cold turkey. He's in heaven right now. He's not bothered his arse about going all the way back up there.
Definitely.
To get it. So we would have to sit and wait for hours, feeling like crap. So that caused a lot of arguments as well.
I can imagine, aye. Fuck.
So there was constantly arguing. Then as time goes by, the addiction got worse. Then a few years started to become brave. I know what door it is. It's that blue door there, number 23. That's the one he goes to. So I was a bit of a shite bag. I wasn't going to be the guinea pig that was going to knock the door first. It was fucking my car. You go. Right?
Fair. So you've got the car. In all fairness,
says my car, right? So with Doggy, one of my other
you had a great bargaining chip for the fucking beginning there. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I was like, because I was scared. You know, I wasn't wanting to get stabbed or robbed.
Nobody does.
So it was like that. He had instilled that fear in us. So the anxiety was always heightened. Then we sort of started to work out where the dealers were, and one of my other pals. When you're going cold turkey, it gets to the stage where like, just fuck it. Like, we're going to have to go, or we're going to be feeling like this forever. So you go to the car. Remember, I'm going over, knocking on, and I remember seeing him handing money over through the letterbox.
Oh.
And it was like putting his hand out, watching him, getting something. Boom, anxiety's away. Right? It's so happy.
Oh.
The happiest feeling, like I had loads of happy feelings, and that might sound strange, but when I was on drugs like that, happiest feeling that I knew that he had got drugs, he'd got heroin, he'd got her medicine, and he was on the way back to the car. And then from there, other people started to get a little bit brave. We started going to the other dealers, so then we were able to source it on our own. And then when that happens, greed kicks in as well. When you've got
let's not forget your tolerance is building up as well as you're going.
Tolerance is building up. You're able to source it on your own without going to a third party. You can go and get it. And everybody was going up at different times of the day. Sometimes we were going up 5 or 6 times in one night. And every time you would go up, regardless of what money you had, you always ended up with something. So again, like you say there, tolerance is going up and greed kicks in. And you just keep taking this drug. And I'd sort of given up on life because I realised, fuck, I'm a heroin addict. How the fuck did that happen? We were joking about it a few months ago, and now I'm sitting here feeling like this. And after I felt what taking heroin was like being cold turkey, then to take heroin, I knew I was in fucking trouble.
Yeah.
I knew I was in trouble. Like, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to suffer like this, knowing that drug can take it all away. So then I sort of just gave up and then just continued to kept using and using. I mean, for years. That was just my life. It consumed me. Heroin kills. So I'm there preparing to die eventually, because that's what happens. So you're just going day by day. You're trying not to think about the future too much. You didn't have a future.
I was going to say, you're actively thinking about that, like as you're going through. Maybe once in a blue moon, the idea will come in to your mind that you'll be like, I'm probably going to fucking die doing this sort of thing. You're not thinking about it constantly. Obviously, nobody wants to do that, but it
was one of these things, mate, that would come into your mind, and the only way to combat that feeling, fear, shame, or whatever, was to take heroin, because it took that away.
That's it.
Took these feelings away. So whenever I used to feel like that, I feel really horrible about who I'd become and what I was doing to my family. They were seeing me deteriorating. My brothers, my parents, my aunties and my uncles and cousins, everybody in the area seeing this guy deteriorating in front of their eyes. And when you start thinking about that, and it's horrible. It's a horrible thing to think about. And like you say, you do think about it often. But then your friend's there, heroin's there.
That's
You
it.
can all you need to do is go and get heroin, and then you're no bothered your arse about.
Shit goes away.
You're no bothered your arse about anything.
Oh.
So then that causes that cycle to continue, and it doesn't. It's all aspects of life. It was like that. Like if I got into arguments, if I got into fights, if I lost a family member, I felt sad, I felt angry, I felt anxious. Heroin, my friend, that'll take it away.
This is a common issue I see. Like you see, like documentaries and stuff. They always focus, and they always get the parents to like have a confrontation with the kids or like whatever. Like somebody has to have a confrontation on these things, and you know that's just leading the person to go because they don't want that confrontation. They just want to fucking continue with what they're doing. You really need to have to be in the mindset. Like you've said this before. You really have to be in the mindset to quit. And we'll get into that as well because you've got a great quitting story which has helped me a wee bit with smoking, so we'll get into that in a wee while. But it is interesting, your story. I want to talk about your first time trying to quit because obviously it took a few tries. Could you go into a wee bit of detail on like what happened your first time? And then we'll go into like your eventual acquittal.
Yeah, so it was 13 times I relapsed.
13. Fuck.
So...
and that's fairly common for a lot of people as well. That's fairly common.
More common than not.
Aye.
We can say that.
Aye, definitely.
You know, I didn't know the exact figures, but it really is common, relapse. I never really got long into my recovery, ever, in those 13 times. The longest time that I got into my recovery, I think, was probably through not being able to source the drug, as opposed to choosing or trying to choose to quit. The first time, I remember it was family. It wasn't really me.
No.
Like, that was wanting to quit. It was like my family. I could
Pressure.
yeah, like when you see your mum getting upset, your mum and dad getting upset, and it's hard, it's heartbreaking.
Okay.
And all they're saying to you is, son, please just stop. Look what it's doing to you. Look at all the weight. Look at what it's causing your life to be like. Can you just stop? Aye, mum, I promise I will. Can you give me £20? And this will be the last time, and I promise after that I'll stop. I meant it. I remember saying it, and I meant it.
That's it, aye.
In my heart, I genuinely wanted off the drug. And the cold turkey phase, you know, first 3 days, really bad, probably a week, you're no well. And every time in my heart that I wanted to stop, I set myself up, I had it planned, you didn't go out, right, you stay in the house, you're not going to eat because your appetite just goes, so, you know, it was just, you'll get through it, let's do it, and then however long that I would get in, over the whole of those 13 episodes.
You didn't see the baby walking along the wall and the roof and shit, did you? None of that.
But there was this wee wanker in my head that had been ruling. He'd been there my whole life, and it was my mind that caused me. This wee wanker in my head. It's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. These two people are in my head, and they have been my whole life. And this little devil guy was saying to me, "Look, you're not going to do it. You know you're not going to do it. You're just as well quitting now and going and getting heroin. Think how good it feels. You know how good it feels. It feels amazing." And then it was like, you just give up. You know?
Sorry, I'll do this momentarily.
You're going to give up. You know you're going to give up. Just go and get heroin. That'll make you feel better. So then I'd go back, and I couldn't really go to my parents because they were expecting me to be stopping. So I'd go and source money elsewhere. I'd go and get the drug, and then back to square one. I'm a failure. I'm never going to be able to stop this drug, and I just have to accept it, and it's just the way that it is. To my parents, and my family. I promise. This time I'll do it. I'm stronger now. I'll do it. And it was always the same. Once I got a few days into cold turkey and feeling like shit every day, like, fuck this. Like, I'll do it next week. You know? And you've got your friends around you that are still taking heroin. So when they've got heroin, and you're sitting there, and he's just went and got a bag of heroin. He'll give you some if he can, you're no well. On the phone, can I come over for 10 minutes? You say, right, I'm only going to have a few lines, just to take the edge off. You'd go over, you'd have a few lines, and the next thing you're on your way to get a bag of heroin yourself.
That's it.
And then it was just like that, and it was the mindset that I was in each time, setting me up for failure every single time. I didn't know it back then. In my heart, I wanted to stop, but in my mind didn't know how to combat this wee arsehole on my shoulder that was trying to get me to continuously take that drug. Then, you know, so 13 times, and then I was on methadone, I was on antidepressants, I was on Valium, I was on cannabis, dihydrocodone. I was just swallowing tablets like they were going into fashion, as well as taking heroin. At points I was taking methadone and heroin and getting absolutely wasted and cutting about like a zombie. Taking a whole cocktail of all these drugs just to get absolutely out my face, because that's where I was at my happiest. When I was out my face, because I didn't worry about my whole life when I was in that state. That's where I wanted to be. Then I think realising that I was needing help out with myself. My family couldn't help me, that was clear. No through lack of trying, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't get through to me. So I agreed to go and see counsellors and start seeking help for professional people. And then I think probably the first few people, drug counsellors that I remember seeing, I was just like, shut up. Like, you're sitting there with your textbook telling me about cold turkey, how cold turkey feels. You've never experienced it, right? You've never had a drug addiction in your life, and you're sitting there. I never said this. This is what I was thinking in my mind.
Okay.
Is you're sitting there trying to coach me on how to break a heroin addiction. So straight away, I was, let me out. I want my heroin. But I'm sitting there for an hour for my mum and dad's sake.
I can imagine them going through the conversation and they're saying things, and you're like, that's never happened. It's in a textbook that might have happened to somebody else, but it's no direct experience.
I couldn't relate to them at all. So I just wanted to do it. I just wanted to go and get my heroin, and that's all I thought about forever. After this, I can go and get heroin. So they would ask me, I'd get upset, I'd cry. They'd ask me about how I started and how I feel. Well, I feel fucking great. Like, now you've asked me, now I'm now going to fucking start greeting and getting really upset because I'm ashamed of what I've done to myself and what I'm doing to my family. So, you know, that question is like a loaded cannon. It's only going to end up one way. So that happened all the time. It's forever fucking greeting, mate. Doctors, counsellors, how are you feeling today, Paul? I couldn't even get the first sentence out. And your fucking bottom lip goes.
Oh, yeah.
And I could feel it in my eyes just used to start gushing, and I'd be like, right. They're like, just let it out. So I would offload. But then after, I'd just go and get my fucking heroin. You know? And that would take away all that, the memories of having to go through that with these people. Then the first positive seed that was planted in my mind was a guy at this drug counsellor place. And I remember walking in. I'd been given somebody else to talk to. And the guy, well, I'll not say his name, but a guy walked in. And he's like, I know what you're going through. I'm 8 years of heroin.
There's perfect people to talk to.
I'm like, what the fuck? How are you still alive? You know what I mean? How are you still alive? I asked him straight out. How are you still alive? How are you here doing this job? Sitting in an office, doing this job helping people like me. And I was like, wow, this is fucking amazing. Like, so he spoke to me. He says, like, do you know when you get that horrible that horrible shivery feeling, and you feel like this and you feel like that. And I was just like hanging on with every word they said. Like, and for that whole hour, I just engaged with them so much. Bearing in mind, at that point, I really did want off the drug, mate. So I was trying my hardest. So he definitely he planted a seed that day.
Because people obviously make the connection that fucking, like you said 13 times you tried to come off it. People make the connection that, oh, you didn't really want to come off it. But that's just no true. Nobody wants to be on heroin.
No.
It's just the simple thing. You need to keep doing it to keep any sort of traumatic shit that's happening a lot of the time. And a lot of the trauma is caused because you're on heroin. And you're using that drug to combat the heroin a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that you're going to go back constantly. For a good wee while, you really have to have that fucking strong heart that you actually genuinely want off it. It's amazing to me that people like discount it so constantly. And you're even getting some shit nowadays, you were saying.
Yeah.
Some people like troll you for different reasons.
Yesterday
Yesterday as well.
druggy.
Just, is that it as well? That was it?
Just druggy.
Fuck's sake. Like,
And it's like, they actually had somebody else coming on. I never replied. And I noticed that there was a couple of other people that know my story had replied. And they were like, shut the fuck up. The boy's fucking 17 years old for fucking heroin. And you're coming on his TikTok account calling him a druggie. So, that's the mentality. A society still, pockets of society still will think that I am an untrustworthy person. People will assume that I've robbed, I've cheated, I've done horrendous crimes, I've done this and I've done that and I've done all that, right? Because they know heroin addicts that have done that. They know heroin addicts that have robbed their granny at knife point and took the telly off the wall and took it to cash converters for a fucking bag of heroin. I know people that have done that, right? And other people in society will know somebody like that. Definitely. So you get branded by the worst experience that somebody has got to a heroin addict. If you're a heroin addict and he's a heroin addict and he fucking done that to his granny, guess what? You're going to do that.
You're the same.
To your granny, you're the same. So society puts heroin addicts all in the same boat, right? And that's the way that society is. And it's a difficult thing to change. But then you've got people like me here fucking determined enough to share their story to help society understand not everybody is the same and there is a life after addiction. You just have to understand what you need to do as an individual to get there. Addiction in general, it's not a physical thing. This is what people that haven't suffered from addiction didn't understand. It's not a physical thing. Aye, cold turkey is fucking brutal. It's the most horrendous thing you'll ever go through in your life is with this fucking cold turkey. And it lasts, it lasts for weeks, right? This horrible feeling. Then when you come at the other end, why the fuck would you ever choose to go back to taking that drug again? And this is the thing, like, it's like, try to explain to people, look how many people relapse. I didn't know the numbers. If you looked at the UK or even just Scotland, look at Scotland, how many people have relapsed after getting clean for a period of, say, 2 weeks or longer, right? I've came off heroin for 2 weeks. I've got to the 2 month point, relapsed, back on heroin again. 3 weeks, relapsed, back on my methadone. Whatever it is, people are relapsing. People are relapsing because it's not a physical problem that they've got. It's a mental problem that they've got.
And it's just that you hear people that drink a lot as well that'll say this same thing to people. But you didn't like your hangover sort of thing. Nobody enjoys that.
No.
But you keep going back to it because you enjoyed the time. And that's the only way you can explain it to people. But they never really seem to take it in a lot of the time.
No. And
it's annoying.
The problem is that alcohol, very similar, mate, is that, again, it's great that people haven't ever suffered from addictions in their life. But drugs, alcohol included, There's a reason why human beings are drawn to taking drugs, right? And it's to cloud traumatic things in their life.
Definitely.
And it doesn't matter how severe the trauma is in their life. That doesn't matter. So I've met people in the last year being on social media who have been through horrific childhoods. And they fucking wonder they ended up drinking and on heroin. Like, no wonder for it to go through and suffer the way that they have as kids and come through life and then take a drug and it put that cloud over their mind and makes them feel alright for a short period of time. They fucking wonder they do it. And they wonder they keep going back to it. But when you keep going back to it and back to it, you become addicted. And then that's where it's such a difficult cycle for these people to break. Because they know that drug helps them short term, so they're going to keep being drawn to a drug of sorts, a mind altering drug that they know they can take, and they didn't feel sad or angry or anxious, or they didn't feel that anymore. So it's no surprise to me, and I'm sure it's no surprise to most folk, mate, that fucking Scotland has got one of the fucking biggest drug problems in the world.
Definitely.
It's not just a case of, Scotland's got one of the biggest drug problems, but the rest of the world's alright. There's no drug problems really in England or America or India. It's fucking everywhere.
It's worldwide.
It's a worldwide fucking pandemic that takes more lives than what the fucking current pandemic that we've got. It's taken people's lives, and it's just for people like me, for what I'm doing, like fucking writing a book and support groups and sharing my story, doing podcasts. Like, this is me just trying to give back and try to make people understand, but try to inspire people that are currently where I was, that have fucking given up on life and think, what? Heroin's going to kill me, crack's going to kill me, alcohol, there's no hope for me. I've tried. And then when they hear me saying, 13 times he done it. 13 times he relapsed. And he wasn't able to get through. What happened on the 14th time? What's the difference in that 14th time that made him be able to be 17 years off heroin? Because I know right now, and I'm even getting goosebumps saying it, I know right now that these people will start engaging their mind with what I'm saying at that point. Because if they want it as much as what I wanted it, and I'm sure they all do, well, no, them all, right? But there's tons of, probably millions of people that want off the drugs that just didn't know how to do it. And then to give people that information, a little bit of hope, that says, do you know what? I've fucking 13 times, on the 14th time, I'm going to tell you how I broke my heroin addiction.
Because it was a very specific thing that happened as well, wasn't it? You want to go into it as well?
Well, this is, like, the way that...
After talking to that guy, really, you were saying, basically.
The way that I done it is unique. The reason that it's important that I tell you now, and it's the reason that I tell social media, is because a lot of people think that you have to do things a certain way to achieve sobriety or to achieve being clean. And it's not the case. It doesn't matter how we get there, it just matters that we get there. So for me, that seed was planted with him. I went and done a course with Sirenians about the mind. Fucking nothing to do with addiction. It was about the mind. The human mind, about how the mind works, about how when you let negative people into your life, they have a negative impact on your life, and sometimes you didn't even realise that that's happening. So I went on that course. I sat in it was a residential on the 4th week. I remember going to this fucking big mansion in Bigger, sitting there. This American psychologist guy sitting there telling me it's fucking my choice to be a heroin addict. And it's my choice not to be in it. And I'm like sitting there. It's like a classroom environment. And I'm looking to the left. Like, fucking shut up. Like, what is this fucking guy talking about? Like, I've relapsed 13 times. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to end up fucking relapsing 20 times if I live long enough. And he's laughing at him. Yeah. And it was on a big screen. It was a DVD that they were playing out. He wasn't there. It was a DVD and had this folder called Breakthrough to Excellence. So I'm reading about the power of the mind, your subconscious, your creative subconscious, and how all this fucking thing works. And I'm like, reading it, going through the thing, and like writing bits in it and that, and like, fucking shite. So I went home, back on drugs, right? Heroin and methadone, all the tablets. And then May the 14th, 17 years ago, so it's just passed, I got up and something was different. I had all my drugs on the table. It was a standard thing. All my dihydrocodeines, my wee bottle of methadone, my cannabis, I'd had heroin the night before. So all my drugs were lined up. I used to get up, I used to make a milky cup of tea so I could swallow my tablets really quickly.
Oh, shit.
So that was just a standard thing. Every morning that I used to do would be make this milky cup of tea. And that morning, I got up at a big mirror above my fireplace. I felt something different. And I remember walking to the mirror, thinking to myself, something had clicked. Another seed was planted on that course when he's talking about the mind, about it being a choice. And I started asking myself, is it? Is it actually a choice? Is he talking shite, or is it actually a choice? No the government, no my family, no anybody else's choice for me to stop. Is it my choice in there? So I remember putting my nose on the mirror. Looked into my eyes. I remember looking dead straight in my eyes. I was under fucking 8 stone, like a skinniest wee guy you've ever seen in your life. Ribs showing and all that. I was dying, you know? And I remember just putting my nose in the mirror. Says, don't fucking ask for heroin ever again, because you're never getting it. I remember just like, fuck. Wow. Goosebumps again. Wow. It was instant, mate, and that is the uniqueness of the way that I done it. And it's important. I'm not that special, a human being, that can only happen to me.
Oh.
Right? And this is the point I try to say to everyone. I'm not that special. I fucking wish I was. Right? I'm not that special. So what happened at that moment in that mirror is, in my mind, I asked myself a question. What do I want? Just as simple as that, right?
Okay.
Could mean anybody. What did I want? Not to be a heroin addict. All I ever wanted. I'd witnessed what I was putting my family through. I witnessed what I was putting my body through as I was sitting there under 8 stone, wasting away, grey, cheekbones showing. I looked horrendous. And that's all I wanted, was not to be a heroin addict. And then it was like, when I asked myself in the mind, what do I want? Instant answer, not to be a heroin addict. And it was like, right, decided. For that moment, I took away the option in my mind to ever take heroin ever again till the day I die. That had been decided in a fucking split second of that moment in the mirror, right? That I'd decided I'm not taking that drug ever again.
No.
So, instantly, through that point, cold turkey hadn't started, because I'd had heroin the night before. It was in the pipeline, but it wasn't physical yet. I was having this fucking party in my mind. I was happy. I was bouncing around the house, and I remember sitting drinking my cup of tea. Sitting looking at all
Just
these
happy
fucking
enough for your
drugs.
tea as well. Aye.
All these tablets that were all lined up for me getting up in the morning. They're always lined up in a big line. And I remember just sitting there, drinking this whole fucking cup of tea, looking at them. And I was like, fucking wow, I've done it. But I couldn't tell anyone.
Aye.
My mum and dad...
Because you've not done it yet. You've not done it, but
No.
yeah, in your mind, it's fucking done.
It's done.
Aye.
It was done. And then it was like, how the fuck, who did I tell? Like, you can't tell anyone. You just gotta have to keep it to yourself, right? And just show people. So I had the cold turkey to go through. It's never nice. That occasion, it was fucking easier. Much easier compared to the times that I'd done it.
Yeah.
So easier, because I knew it was a physical thing that was going to feel really horrible, feel really, really crap. But then when I come out the other end, I can start getting my life back.
Aye.
I can start eating. I can start exercising. I can start maybe looking at getting a job, maybe getting a girlfriend. And I was starting to think about these things for that moment. Was that, wait a minute, I'm not going to die. I didn't have to die now. Like, you know, I can get a job. I can get my car back. I can be back on the road, fantasizing about these things, dreaming about these things that I believed at that moment in time can be a reality for me. So weeks went by. I started going to my parents, eating loads of food. Very, very quickly, the colour came back in my cheeks, and the weight came back on my face. Space of 2 weeks. It was crazy how quickly it happened. I started to get a wee belly, and I remember my appetite came back. I'm just scoffing fucking everything. You know, we'd go to be sitting down at my mum and dad's family dinner. My mum would make a Sunday roast, and go my mum, my dad, and my 3 brothers all sitting in the living room eating dinner. And it was like, you alright? And I'd be like, I am good. Right? I hadn't told them. They knew something was different, and I was looking at everybody's plates, and my dad clocked me looking at his plate, right? And I was like, are you going to eat that bit of chicken, Dad?
Your appetites came right back. Just at the...
He's no ate for years, like nothing. I hadn't ate like properly ever for years. It was just junk food. And then here's me eyeing this bit up, so my dad's picked his plate up, and he's emptied the thing onto my thing, and I just wolfed it, like, right down, looking at everybody else. I cleared everybody's plates, and then, like, you alright? And I was like, I'm off heroin. And they were like, oh, well done, son. I always remember when they said it, they didn't...
It's not quite there.
It's not quite there.
Aye, but they've got some realisation as well because of the chicken thing, obviously.
And they knew something was different, but they still didn't. I was only like a couple of weeks off, so I was still looked like crap. And the whole cold turkey phase takes its toll physically as well. But I was like, I'm off, and I know that you're not going to understand this, but you know that course that I went and done about the mind. Remember I told you about the mind and stuff. And they went, aye. I says, well, it worked. It's worked. I've applied it to my addiction and it worked. And they were like, that's amazing, son. So I was like, well, there's only one way to prove it, and that's to show you. Yeah. So every day going back doing, I'll be doing for my dinner in the mornings, like mum, and off I'd go. Every night I'd rock up, eating, and then I started running.
Yeah.
There was something missing in my life, where drugs would normally be an everyday occurrence. When it would get to...
So you're setting your day up for a lot of the time as well, which is fucking you up.
Like 6 and 7 o'clock at night, so I'm normally out of my face. Right? And for that moment in time, I've got the telly on, I'm not watching it, but it's on, and I'm sort of gouching, and that'll take me through to getting my sleep to the next day. So then, being compos mentis and awake, it was like 6, 7 o'clock, right? Sitting, biting my nails, and what am I doing, right? It's like, Ken, what? My wee brother gave me a wee MP3 player. It had 12 songs on it. Akon was one of the songs.
Which one was it?
Was
it one of his first?
Aye, it was one of.
It would have been a while ago.
It was one of those, but it was an upbeat one. I remember it had a bit of an upbeat in it.
What if it's Belly Dancer or something like that? It's got to be Belly Dancer.
But I remember just putting these earphones in my ear, hitting play and sitting listening to this music and all that. And I was like, Ken, what? Fuck it. I put my old trainers on, and I went out and I just started running, jogging. I mean, I couldn't really run very much.
You're on the sprinting enough.
I was like walking a wee bit and going into a wee jog, getting out of breath, stopping, and then I just used to go along the beach, round parts of Edinburgh, come back, get into the house, feel good about myself. You know, like I felt good, and then I didn't know. I know now it was an addiction to running that I had, but back then it was just something that I was doing every day that was making me feel good. So I wanted to keep doing it, and then through running, I went to the gym. I couldn't afford the gym, so I was the guy who ran the gym liked me. He gave me a couple of wee jobs, handed leaflets there, and that will let you in for the month for free. So I used to do that. Started doing the weights. They had a big studio with a big boxing bag.
Alright, aye.
Big fucking speakers like them in the gym. There was 6 of them. and there was all these glass mirrors with the laminated floor and all that.
That's some proper gym shit as well, aye.
And it was like, there was nobody in it, right? And it had a big CD player thing. So I brought Faithless. I remember it was the first CD that I ever put in my gym bag. And I went over, took all their CDs out and put them to one side, put Faithless in, put We Come One, right? And I remember hitting it, and I turned it up, and this thing was like a nightclub, fucking bang, bang, bang. And it was like, started skipping. Somebody had left mitts out for the boxing. I'd never really boxed, so I was like, fuck it, like nobody's watching me. There's no, always looking around, nobody's watching me. Put these mitts on. Just started punching the bag. Go out of breath and stuff, but after half an hour, it's like, that's amazing.
Did you not get to the point as well, like when you're looking at the mirrors, you're like, fuck me. You're like, dun dun, like
Aye.
shit for that.
Yeah, and it was like, Rocky played its part in my recovery. When you hear the soundtrack of Rocky, I remember being in the house and getting down and starting doing push-ups, and got the dumbbells and that out, sitting watching the Rocky movie, being inspired by the music, and the music takes over you. Music was such a positive influence in my recovery.
Definitely.
So the running to doing weights, doing the boxing, then I'm looking at myself in the mirror, getting catches of myself in the mirror and saying, who the fuck is this guy? He fucking ripped. Like, you know, you went for under 8 stone, you went to 12 and a half, 13 stone. There's no announced fat, there wasn't an announced fat on me. Like, I was just, because I was addicted to go to the gym, you know, protein shakes and eating well. I still never had a lot of money, so I was just buying, I remember sitting just eating dry pasta and getting tomato ketchup, putting tomato ketchup on dry pasta, and just tins of tuna and eating raw eggs. Like, I'd seen it on the telly, I thought that's what fucking bodybuilders do. So I used to crack eggs into a cup and fucking drink raw eggs. I wouldn't do it now, right? But I did do that for a while, and it was like just eating healthy and continued running. Boxing was brilliant for my anger management.
Definitely.
Just like, I fucking loved it, eh? Like, I was always an angry man. And I remember just going and punching his bag for an hour. It's helping my fitness, but it was helping my mind. And then going home every night, it was like, it's amazing. Got a job. You know, I was back. My life was back on track. I was looking good. Was feeling good. Got a job and all that. And still something missing. Like, I didn't believe that working in a supermarket, driving that forklift, I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I was nearly 30, and I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? So I had this drive, something in my mind saying, probably that American psychologist telling me, or my mind saying, like, what do you want? And I just knew that I wanted something different. Sitting reading a newspaper in the staff canteen, flicking through it, and there was an advert for the fucking British Army, and then I seen it, looked at it, thought, oh, aye. I never ever thought about being a soldier, ever, in my whole life. And seen it, and I thought, oh, I'm fucking too old now, nearly 30. I think 27 used to be the age. It used to be the cut-off age was 27. So I was like, my time to be a soldier's fucking been and gone. I'll find something else. I went and got the application for the fire brigade. It was like a fucking Yellow Pages. I was like, fucking hell, like, nah, fuck that. So I was out in Edinburgh, and there's an army recruitment in Edinburgh, in the West End. And I remember walking past. To this day, I didn't know why I walked in, because in my mind, I'm too old. Walked into the army recruitment office, and there was some fucking corporal behind the desk. He says, I just take a seat, pal. There was a Pike Major of the Scots Guards sitting at his desk, and he shouted at him, he said, go on there, pal. So I walked into his office, he's looked at me and he's went, how old are you? And I was like, nearly 30. And he was like, you fit? And I says, I'm in the gym every day. And I says, I go running around Edinburgh every single day. I'll get you Scots Guards. Like that. First couple of sentences, I'll get you Scots Guards. I didn't know what the fuck who the Scots Guards were. I didn't know. All I knew is he was sitting there with an army uniform on, telling me you get me Scots Guards. Could have been fucking anything.
You obviously seen someone in you when you went in. Seen the fitness level, seen the wee bit spark you probably had as you went in.
Yeah, I like well, one day I'll ask him. Hopefully he'll remember me. I'm sure he will, because I was the oldest guardsman one of the oldest guardsmen to ever join the regiment.
Right.
So, it was like Scots Guards, and I was like, fucking hell. So I had a meeting with another regiment up the stair. They gave me pamphlets for the Scots Guards, right?
Oh.
And I had this regiment in Scotland up the stair, the Sergeant Major. He gave me pamphlets. But this Pipe Major of the Scots Guards says, I want to see you before you go home, Paul. So I went back down the stairs, went in his office. He says, what have you got in your fucking hand there? And I'm standing there with Scots Guards stuff and Regiment of Scotland stuff. He's like, let's see. So I handed him the Regiment of Scotland stuff. And there was like 3 or 4 fucking packs, leaflets and that in it. He fucking threw them right fucking halfway across the room into the bin, right? And I was like, what the fuck? He says, I told you, I'll get you Scots Guards. Okay. So I remember going home. I might have even fucking ran home, right? I think I was suited and booted that day. I can't remember what I was up to, but I remember I couldn't wait on the bus. I wanted to get home. I wanted to get on to the internet, and I wanted to find out who the Scots Guards.
Oh.
Because when I see the Scots Guards, toy soldier, right? That's what they are, a toy soldier. And I've seen them growing up. They stand outside Buckingham Palace with their red tunic and their bearskin and their rifle, and that's what they do. They're just toy soldiers.
We'll hold that up as well, just so people can see.
Aye. So that's what I believed when I was starting to do my research and all that, and I was thinking, oh, like, pretty amazing. Like, the fact that this guy's saying that I could be one of them. And then I'm watching this film, and then there's a warrior, which is a small tank. It's the easiest way to explain it, coming around. And there's all these soldiers cutting around with rifles, shooting, and fucking doing all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, has this moved on for the next video? Because the previous video was like them.
No.
Like, watching it and thinking, fucking hell. Like, that's mental. So they do both. So they're going to go and fight, and they're going to do standing outside Buckingham Palace. And I was like, yeah, like, if you can, I had a point to prove, mate. Eh? Like, in my life, I was like, do you know what? Like, a point to prove to myself, and a point to prove to everybody that was doubting me. Like, and I was like, I'll fucking show them. I'm going to show everybody that doubts me and tried to bring me down and tell me I'm no good and I'm not going to amount to anything. I'm going to fucking do it. I'm joining the army. And I was like, yes, I'm joining the army. Like, didn't fucking even comprehend what that fucking meant at the time. I was just like, no, I'm fucking doing it. Right, determined, stubborn if you like. Right, I'm fucking doing it, joining the army. So I went down, said to my mum and dad, I'm joining the army. Kind of near like, probably laugh.
Was it the same faces that like you used the first time when you said when you were coming off heroin? They're like, oh, no, totally.
Probably exactly the same.
Good luck.
Aye, my brothers and that laughed. My mates and that all laughed at me. Everybody laughed at me. I changed my group of pals, which is something I should mention. Like, all my pals, some of them are still taking heroin right now. I had to distance myself from them, and I got new pals, work colleague pals, that I would start spending time with. They would all fucking laughed at me, and I was like, I'm fucking telling you. So watch me, I'm fucking joining the army. And they're like, you're too old. I says, well. So they sent me down for a week, a look at life. Went down to Cataract for a week. Got combats, got to had a rifle, got taken out in the warrior, and fucking, it was just mental. And then returned home, and it was like, just kept running, kept boxing, kept doing the weights, and then 10th of January 2010, my mum and dad took me to the train station at Waverley, and fucking basic training for 6 months. And I went down there, started my basic training. I mean, that's another whole podcast in itself, what happened through basic training, but the story had travelled that I used to be a heroin addict. The story had reached.
How did they find out?
The medical. So
right.
You have to go for a medical, and I went for the medical, and I was shite myself because if they were going to ask me about any drug problems,
you have to be honest, don't you?
I can't lie. I couldn't lie, mate. And I was like, it just wasn't. It wasn't who I wasn't. It's not who I am now. I was like, they're going to ask, or they might not ask. right? Look at you, man. Like, you're ripped and all that. You look fit as fuck. They might no ask. The age is fine, so they might no ask. So I went and done thing, stripped me down into my boxer shorts, heard me leaping around the flare like a fucking frog, checking your ankles or something today.
All right.
So I'm bouncing around this fucking room in my boxer shorts, and the doctor's saying, jump up on the bed, jumping over the vest, any drug or alcohol problems. My fucking heart sank, eh? It's like, fuck. I says, I used to be a heroin addict. I said, alright, what the dates? How long have you been clean? And alright, right, stay there. And he left. 15 fucking minutes I'm sitting on that bed.
Fucking hell, that's a long...
In my boxer shorts, right, on this fucking medical bed. They left me fucking sitting there. And I'm sitting there thinking, fuck. I fucked that up. Should I have lied? If I'd lied, I would have got and start questioning my honesty and all
I'm just
that.
imagining your mind just going, fuck.
Right,
Like
I'm not getting in. And he just come in and he just fucking didn't even really say anything to me. He just took the notepad and pen and said, right, you're in very good physical health. You've been cleaning the drug for long enough. Signed this wee bit of paper. Says enjoy basic training. And that was that. Boom. So I was like,
I'm wondering if you maybe went out to like do someone with a microwave or something like that, like you had micro noodles ready or some shit.
Yeah.
And you just went fuck for 15 minutes.
You may have a fucking munch. But I was like, so that, once that had happened, that paper trail had found its way to Catterick, where they get the paperwork of the trainee guardsman coming down. So obviously, word had spread. Here's this fucking old bastard. He's fucking 30. I was 30 when I started, actually. So here's this old 30-year-old bastard that used to be a fucking smackhead in Edinburgh that's coming to try and join the guards. So they were all talking about me, and all the officers and I knew who I was and stuff. And I remember getting into basic training, the corporals and the sergeants and that coming up to me, saying, are you the fucking smackhead for the East Coast? And I'd be like, aye sir. And they're like, no sir, I fucking work for a living and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's what you used to say. I was like, yeah, yes corporal, or yes sergeant. And then it was like, they were intrigued. And so were all the trainee guardsmen, because there must be 40 or 50 of us. Everybody knew. And I was allowed to talk about it openly. And they asked me, like, what was it like on heroin? What was it like on other drugs like ecstasy and magic mushrooms and things like that? And they'd ask me, and I'd sit very much similar to the way that I'm sitting here with you and saying, well, it's like this and it's like that. And they were all fucking properly paying attention, officers as well, and saying, that's fucking amazing, man, you should write a book. Right? And they'd be like, well, it's funny you should say that, sorry, because part of my recovery and my rehabilitation was I was advised to write down how I feel. Maybe after my army career, if I have one, I'll maybe write a book. And it's amazing. So they all thought I was amazing, and my fitness held me in good stead. I struggled with the drill, learning how to march. I was quite slow at that, but I did get it, obviously, because I passed out. But so everybody was always like that at me, wanting to know what it was like on these drugs, and it was good for me, like as well. It was like for the realization, my life now is fucking getting these guys checking if I'm fucking shaved or not, checking my boots are shiny, checking that my belt's shiny, or my bed's made right, and shouting at me, And I had young laddies, old enough to be my sons, screaming in my face, "You're a fucking waste of space, Boggie. You're just a fucking no good fucking smackhead. Blah. Go fucking back to you. The army's no for you. Fucking blah blah blah." You'll be like, "Yes, corporal. Yes, corporal. No, corporal." Now they're just testing you, right? But I was always shown respect, and I think that was because of my age. I think.
You could take a lot more than the average person.
Aye.
Sort of thing. I would.
They were like, "You came what the army is about, Bogey. Right? So they're going to fucking break you down. This is what happens, right? You take civilians, we fucking break them down, and then we build them back up into guardsmen, are fucking amazing soldiers, and it's going to happen to you." And I said, "Sergeant, I didn't really know. Like, I used to always question some of the things that they said to me, right? It was banter. I was allowed to have banter with them. I was fucking older than the sergeants. I was older than everyone. Right, I was oldest man. The officers included. I was the fucking oldest man.
Oh, shit, see, I just assumed like, these guys are like in their 50s and shit like that, but
no, they're all young laddies.
They're like out their game at that point.
Like mid-20s to late 20s. Right, so it was like, these sergeants and all that. I think the sergeant major was older, but he was never there. Sergeants and corporals and officers were all young guys, younger than me. And I'd be like, I just didn't know if that's really going to work. And they're like, what the fuck do you mean? It's like, well, you're talking about breaking me mentally to build me back up. And I've already been broken down mentally, and I've already built myself back up. And that's why I'm here. And I says, I think you are going to have a hard time. And they're like, you fucking think so? So they always used to...
You fucking think so, I love that.
They always said, right, well, fucking, we'll see. You know, and they'd always push my buttons. They'd always try to break me. And it never happened, you know, because I had mentally already learnt about myself and learnt my limits and things.
There's no much they could say that's going to crack you, really. Because you've already been at a fucking mad low point. There's no really much that they could say that's going to really take you that far back.
And they tried.
I can see like really like weak dudes that have just started to get into the army sort of thing that can be broken down by a wee bit name calling sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's not really going to hit you.
It just never happened.
Nah. Right, okay, so we had a wee quick break. Got a new tea and coffee on the go.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So what I wanted to get into next was what you're getting into next. Basically, we spoke the last time you were talking about putting a documentary together. You've done that. You've done like a small 15-minute thing.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to speak about that before we continue on?
Yeah, so that was with Johnny Brooks up in Aberdeen. I was up delivering sleeping bags for the homeless people up there. And Johnny's obviously up in Aberdeen as well. So he invited me along to do a day's filming. And him and his actor friends went out and made a little short film, 17 minutes
That was a
long.
cool wee addition to that as well. That was a cool wee addition.
I thought it was just one of these things, obviously during pandemic. Excuse me. It was just good to get out like it is today, you know. And he's a filmmaker, so he put together this thing for social media, helped share my story. So I had 17.2 thousand views on Facebook. So there's a lot of people that have seen it that otherwise probably wouldn't be aware of who I am.
Was that a conscious idea to do it so short as well, just to keep it like within the midst of like for social media? Was that
Yeah.
So you didn't think about it before?
Because the film went on for 8 hours, as you're probably probably understanding now. 8 hours, me talking about the same things as what we're talking about today. The same, and I just rabbled on. And then at the end of it, it was like, we condensed this right down. They watched it and they picked out the little bits and put it together and made this 17-minute short film. It was for his university.
Alright, okay, so you got like a wee portfolio sort of thing.
Yeah,
like that,
so that's why I done it. I was helping him. He's helping me share my story. I'm helping him obviously get a good grade. So, so we done that, and then the plan was always to make, after writing the book, I've got 20 or 25 film directors, assistant producers, actors, film crew in this WhatsApp group that I've got, that I've compiled for people for Facebook that want to volunteer their time. I had them on a Zoom call. And I was sitting on the Zoom call with all these people. They're like, "Hi, I'm Paul," sitting with the book in that, proud author, right? And I was sitting there telling them about my story and about what I'm wanting to do, and they were like, feature film, real life train spotting, and you could go to Hollywood. And I'm like, what, serious? And they're all, can you get them on the screen? Like, you can see them all. And they're all like, aye. And I'm like, he's been serious. And like, Paul, just be patient. And then was like, right, so what do we do? How do I make a feature film? They said, feature film, it's going to be like 10 million plus to make a good feature film, to get the big name actors that you want for your story to do it justice. So they were like, right, well, a documentary, that's something you can maybe do for 10 grand. Thereabouts, you could make a documentary of your life, and that would be a proof of concept along with the book to make the feature film. get these big wigs involved. So that was when that sort of the whole ball rolling.
That's how the Iceman film came about, and the Wee Man films and stuff. They all kind of started with like initial documentaries and shit like that as well.
And then they make it into a feature film.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm heading. But it was like, to make a documentary, I try to plan everything and micromanage everything myself. So I went, what do I need? Like, I need somebody to interview me. I need cameramen. I need sound engineers. I need this and I need this. So I was contacting these people individually, saying, will you help me? Will you volunteer? Yes. When it comes to it, these people are needing money to live. Oh. I want them to volunteer, so the sort of lot of them pulled out. I got a filmmaker, planned this thing for months, going to do a book tour of Scotland, going to take this camera crew and that with me, I arranged it all. On the morning that we were due to have our very first proper Zoom with everyone, pulled out. I'm like, fuck. Like, after all that organisation, and it's pulled out. So I was like, Ken, what, fuck it. Give me my phone, live button, Facebook, record. So I just said, hi everyone, I'm Paul Boggie, proud author of Heroin To Hero. I've just been let down from a filmmaker about making a documentary, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody on social media that wants to help. So literally done it, posted it, half an hour later I got 3 kickbacks for 3 production companies. And I was like, wow. So I messaged them. One of them was Edinburgh based, so I was like, perfect. So I messaged them first. Occult Productions, messaged them, spoke to the guy, says we'll set up a Zoom, had a Zoom call with them, told them in a nutshell about my story in the space of half an hour. And they were all like, Paul, that's fucking amazing. We'd be honoured to make a documentary of your life. And I was like, this is amazing. And they're a proper production company. So it's
it happened quick as well. Really quick.
It was just like...
What's some of the stuff Occult Films has done before? I think you researched this, or...
I've been on, they've done loads of stuff. Like, they've done loads of like smaller stuff. But there was a guy, Connor Riley, who I've watched some of his documentaries that he's uploaded onto YouTube. He's done loads, like, and he's quite well connected guy. He sometimes does some work with occult, so they'd said, look, he could be like your Louis Theroux type character that you're looking for, that's going to ask you the questions about your life and stuff. Contacted Connor. Oh, I'd love to be part of that. So we've done another Zoom call with him, met him. He's like, Paul, your story's absolutely amazing, pal. He's like, no doubt in my mind you'll get funding. Right? What we'll do is we'll do 2 days filming. We'll come to your house in Fife. Then we'll do on location in Edinburgh, where you used to take heroin, where you grew up. We'll do all that sort of stuff. We'll make a teaser. Then the teaser will get pinged out to Netflix, BBC.
Is that like a wee 3 to 5 minute kind of thing?
I think, yeah. Well, I mean, in true Paul Boggie fashion, I would say
8 hours.
It's probably about 8 hours, and it'll probably be condensed probably maybe into a half an hour shot.
That's good enough. It's a good enough idea to give you an idea what you're doing.
Attention spans of people. But obviously they do all their jiggery pokery and stuff. It was mental in the house. Like I said to you when I first came in, I had this black sheet draped over my front house. It had smoke machines, it had sound booms, they had all these fucking cameras pointing at me and shit. And I had my microphone and that, and I'm sitting there talking about my life. And then went on to the location, some of the places I used to take heroin, and I'm rocking around Portobello Promenade on a sunny day. It was jam-packed because lockdown was just easing. Beach is just packed, and I'm walking around with this film crew with all these boxes of fucking cameras and drones and fucking shit like that, and sound booms and stuff, and I was like, what the fuck, like, this is crazy. So that's in the process right now. They're working on it at the moment. I've not seen it. I've told them, didn't show me, because I want to fucking be able to sleep at night. If I get too excited, I'm going to be
constantly your mind as well.
It's just going to show me, and I'll try my best to forget about it. So that's what I've done, or I'm trying. I'm not succeeding, because I still do.
To be fair, we are talking about it right now. So
and through talking about it right now, I'm getting a bit excited about what's going to happen. So I spoke to them and I said, look guys, I want to do a book tour of Scotland, I've been invited into prisons. I've been into a prison, by the way. We can talk about that in a minute.
That's cool.
I've been invited into schools. I've been invited into drug rehab centres and stuff to talk about my book and my life and stuff. And it would be great for the production company to follow me. And make a docu-series or something along those lines to help spread the word. So like, it's an absolute amazing idea. We're all in agreement. So when they're pitching for funding, they're going to mention that as well, that I'm willing to go and do this book tour. So that come about. Then because of the pandemic, there had been talk about me going into schools and prisons. Nothing had been finalised. And then 3 weeks ago, I had my first visit to Stockton prison.
Right.
And it was amazing. It's amazing to be invited.
Oh.
They said to me, bring your book, talk to the inmates about your book, and then you can have a wee chinwag after, wee question and answer and that with them. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I got there, fucking shite myself as I pulled up in the car park. I was like, fucking hell, I've never been to prison.
No.
Right? So, I was like, still happy to do it. So I remember walking up and fucking being a wee bit nervous and that, getting my name badge and that, and walking in, and then sitting in the office having a cup of tea with the guy, and then he heard the fucking big door go. The security officers come in with a big line of fucking inmates. And they've all come in and they're all the tea and coffee, and they're all got the biscuits and they're putting biscuits in their pockets and all that. Right, and I'm sitting watching them. And I was like, fucking hell. So they went and sat down, and I went over with the book, and I was sitting there, and I had the rest of the security officers, prison officers, they fucked off. It was just me and this one guy that had invited me. So he's just sitting there with these inmates and that. And we're sitting, so hey guys, I'm Paul Boggie, the author of Heroin To Hero. I just wanted to come in, blah blah blah, give him a talk, right? So I was there for an hour and a half. Loved it. They all engaged with me. These guys had drug problems that were looking to turn their lives around. This is why they were selected to come to meet me.
Oh, they were specifically chosen. Oh, right.
They were specifically chosen to be there. So that did fill me, it made me a wee bit more relaxed, thinking, well, they're obviously looking for help, so they're going to be easier to help because they're looking for it already. Because
that becomes not just a group of guys that have been chosen that are like, okay, we'll get free biscuits out of this.
Aye, free biscuits.
They also get the free biscuits, but they're also coming for a fucking reason, sort of thing.
They're looking to try and break this drug addiction and stuff. So, loved it. It was a great time. There was fucking story that's funny that I need to tell you, because this is the fucking thing that I'll never forget. So I'm sitting there and I'm already a wee bit nervous, right? There's these inmates, I've fucking no idea what they're in for. Some of them look proper intimidating. One of them's like, I know you. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. He's like, I was born in Leith, so was that, right? I was like, I didn't recognise him. He went, and I stayed in Craigentinney. I grew up in Craigentinney. I'm like, fucking hell. So I kept looking at me, and I was like, he kept sitting on the chair. He kept looking at me every time I got. I was only looking at him all the time. I was kind of looking at everyone. Every time I was going back, and he was like looking at me like he was proper.
Because let's not forget, one of the most annoying things ever is spotting somebody you naked their name. Aye. You naked who they are. So to evolve that to like a prison level, somebody sees you.
It's like, you're
like, fucking need to find out who that guy is.
I definitely know you. Definitely know you, mate. Definitely know you. And I was like, kind of, it was nice, it was friendly and all that. And he was probably the one that engaged with me the most over that hour and a half. So it's a big hall.
Just questioning you. What shops did you go in?
Just trying to find out who I was. So I'm fucking sitting there, money that long into it. The phone goes. So you hear the phone ringing in the fucking background in the office, away in the corner. Mm-hmm. He gets up and fucking walks off, goes into the office, shuts the office door, has his back to me. I could see him through the glass. Has his back to me, picks up the phone, starts fucking talking on the phone and all that. And I'm fucking sitting there, and my arse went. Like for a minute, right? My arse went, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, like, they could fucking jump me and murder me at the drop of a hat, right? I didn't even know what the crimes of that were, right? It could be fucking lunatics. and they've just left me. And I was like, you fucking just left me here on my own. So I was like sitting there and I was like fucking shaking myself a wee bit, eh?
So
and
like,
and then I think actually the inmates could sense that I was a wee bit taken aback.
Aye, aye.
And that probably probably gave me some dirty looks in what they were giving me when they seen that I was getting a wee bit intimidated. They were fine, of course, right? And then, but it was just like, to be invited, and then I've been invited back. So it's good because it shows that for that hour and a half talking to them, it went doing well. I just got a message 4 days ago that the governor was speaking to the inmates, and they were all bigging me up.
That's cool.
This is the feedback that I got. They were all bigging me up to the governor, and he's authorised to buy 24 copies of my book for the prison library. So I was like, that's amazing. Like, for me personally, I love it.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson's sitting reading my book.
Holy shit, how did you find out?
So it was through a mutual friend. She sent him money. Is it the commissary? The money.
Oh yeah.
She's friends with him, and like pen pals and that with him. And she bought a copy of my book and sent it in to him. So I think like things like that. Like, and then there's, I think there's a copy in Barlinnie as well. I've been invited into Barlinnie. I've been invited into Polmont, Perth, and I'm sure there'll be other prisons as well that through time. Let's see how many copies I can maybe sell to their library.
There you go.
So this has all came around recently, and it's just amazing because it's like the next step. This is next exciting step.
Well, again, that's probably an avenue you weren't thinking about before because you weren't in prison.
No.
So, it's an interesting thing to add.
This has come from people on social media that have seen my story, and I've had school teachers coming onto my Facebook thing and saying,
School teachers as well.
You're an inspiration. Next thing my messenger goes, hiya Paul, I'm so-and-so, I'm the head teacher at blah 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 at school, and it's all across Scotland right now, but there's like 5 or 6 schools that have invited me in to talk to the kids about drugs and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm there, I'll do it. So these things they'll come in time, and it's exciting just to get letting out, of course, because of the pandemic, but it's exciting to share my story with the world, to inspire people, because that seems to be what people, the most common word, strangers that are looking in, they see the short film, they see the book, that I'm donating all the money for the book to homelessness in Scotland, or they hear that I'm 17 years off heroin and I'm went on and joined the army. Inspiration. It's the same word, and it's like, thank you very much. Like, I do appreciate it, and I always tell them, say thanks very much, I really appreciate that. Thousands of people messaging me that. So now getting out there and actually, physically going into these places and maybe making an impact in somebody's life to try and help them to change their thought process through the power of the mind.
Definitely.
It's planting seeds. I think it got brought up a few weeks ago about being an influencer. My life coach had said that somebody said on social media about an influencer, and I brought up to my life coach, and she says, well, you're an influencer.
It's pretty much what you're doing.
And I was like, and then I asked other people, and said, no, because influencers make loads of money, they do things for brands and blah, blah, blah. And you Google it, that's true. That's what Google will tell you, that's the sort of influencer. But probably 90% of people on my social media all said 100% influencer. You're helping people change their lives for the better, you're an influencer. So I was like, well, I didn't know if that's a title. I'm happy with proud author as a title, And I was like, I could be an inspirator. I was making up my own words because everybody's calling me saying I'm an inspiration. So it's like, inspirator, that doesn't exist. I'm going to make myself an inspirator, and I'm going to call myself that.
Well, because I think that they use a different, it's the same word, but it's like a different term of the word. So when they're talking about that word, they mean they're just like on Instagram and stuff like that. They're like, or YouTuber or whatever.
Yeah.
And they work with different brands and stuff like that. But you're actually trying to change people's lives in that sense. So you're actually the sort of real idea of the word.
Yeah, so and that's what people say is that, like, yeah, anybody that does that and inspires people in a positive way to change their lives, you're influencing these people in an amazing way. So that's a title that you can have, take it and own it if you want. You know, I didn't call myself an influencer. I didn't call myself an inspirator. I didn't call myself anything. I'm just a proud author.
I think you should just keep calling yourself an inspirator.
Inspirator, and I'll catch on. Yeah, eventually it'll be this new thing. Have you heard of the inspirator? That baldy guy up in Scotland, have you heard of him?
And the great thing is you're putting out stuff as well constantly. Like you've started off the right way. You've done the book, which is a great way to get folk into your story and stuff like that as well, which is always great. Then you've done the podcasts. You've got like a wee short documentary to then get the big documentary on the go. So you're going to, and actually I wanted to ask, feature film. You've probably thought about this before. Who plays you in the film?
Right, I've been asked that. I've been asked that a lot, and I have no idea. I've only had one offer, and that was for Leo Gregory,
right,
who was in Green Street with Elijah Wood.
I'll try and put up a picture for anybody who wants to see.
So Leo Gregory, on Instagram, and it was a verified account with a blue tick, and I messaged him. I didn't expect to hear anything back from him, like I haven't heard anything back for anybody else, and that's a dig, right? That's a complete dig, right? I've messaged everybody across Scotland and the UK to help support me. They've all chinned me off, most of the folk, right? Certainly in the film industry side, but Leo Gregory, sent him in the book, a picture of the book, told him a little bit about what I'm doing. Didn't expect to see anything, and I seen the wee dots. He gave me a wee fist pump emoji with the arm up first.
Nice.
I was like, fucking hell. Saying to my wife, babe, Leo Gregory's just replied. She, what did he say? I said, it's just an emoji. So, literally 5 minutes later, my phone goes again, Instagram, and it was a DM through Leo Gregory. I'd be honoured to play you, pal. I actually write about it in the second book that I'm writing right now.
All right,
I've asked him. He says, mate, you can mention me if you want. So I write about it in the second book. He says, I'd be honoured to play you, pal. I could play you, I can play a smackhead, I can play somebody on the brown, I can play a gangster, do whatever you want, inspiration. And sent me it. And I was like, fucking, I'm brilliant.
That's
like,
cool.
Leo Gregory, I watched him in Green Street not that long ago.
I can't figure out who he is. I'm going to hate to check this.
I've watched him
I'll check it after I'm done.
Watched him in Wild Bill, another great film. He plays these sorts of parts like gangsters and stuff. Right? And I was like, blew my mind, eh? It's like, here's this guy that I've watched growing up now wanting to play me. Whether he could pull off a baldy Scottish
skinny.
Aye, I didn't know how it would work. To be honest,
well, shit, Christian Bale done it quite well in that fucking. What was that film we done that he got really thin for?
It was Fighter. Is that the one, or are you talking about
the
Rescue Dawn?
No, the one where he was like he was a factory worker.
Oh,
I can't remember.
Because he has dropped it. He
dropped a ton of weight. Aye.
He drops a lot of weight. For he done Rescue Dawn when that was in Vietnam. They were captured, and you seen him like he dropped his weight.
This one he dropped to like a proper like illness level, like thinness, and then started Batman. I think it was like 6 or 7 months afterwards. So to like bulk back up, which is fucking crazy, man.
Was it Fighter he done with Mark Wahlberg as well when he was his crackhead brother, and he's missing all his teeth and all that, and he was skinny, and like it's amazing what these actors can do. I've had a couple of professional actors offering to play me. The thing is, I want to be a creative director,
right?
So that I have a control over the way that the feature film goes. I didn't want there to be any falsehoods. I didn't believe that my story really needs it.
Right.
Like, for people to dramatise. Everything sort of will be dramatised, but I want to have a say in what things happen and what things don't happen. Like, a month before I was due to go on my first tour to Afghanistan, I was in a serious car accident where I nearly died. I broke my back, I crushed my spine. Right, so as I sit here right now, I've got a crushed spine and I'm in a lot of physical pain. So I like to make sure I got that in there because people were thinking, is in the army, did he go
We
to...
totally forgot to add that in because I knew we were going to have to get to that part, but I totally forgot about it.
Whilst we're on that subject, before I move on, I wanted to say as well, you've obviously, when you read this...
Just hold it up again, Paul.
The last bit of this...
If you hold it back a wee bit just so we can get in the light. I love how I can actually see as well. We'll just assume it was there, and if not, I'll put a picture up.
Can I just read this one sentence?
Go for it.
Right. So, the very last bit of the book is a goodbye. And it is, sitting here smoking my grass joint while waiting to hear from famous Scottish people to endorse my book is stressful, but my heart is in here with you. Right now I'm going to cry because I felt happy writing goodbye and it wasn't a suicide note. So,
sure.
When I wrote this book, I was on all these drugs. And I'm over a year drug free now, so I wanted to let people know that as well. That as I do sit here with a crushed spine and a lot of physical pain, I'm off all my codeine, I'm off my tramadols, I'm off the cannabis.
Oh, you off all that stuff?
Everything. So I've been over a year now drug free, apart from tobacco and tea and sugar. But so I'm drug free now. So again, that's where my breaking that addiction again, mate. Was something that I talk about a lot, and I'll go into depth in the documentary, which I'm sure you'll watch. Hopefully you watch as well. But I'll go in depth about what that was like, breaking that addiction again in recent times. So it was only just over a year ago I done that, and it was different. So I wanted to make sure I got these bits in because if I didn't,
absolutely, totally.
I'll get in the house tonight and I'm thinking, fuck, people are going to be asking him. Where I served, and people are going to say you own drugs or and I'm like, I'll have to phone you.
This happens every single fucking podcast we do. We get to the end of the podcast, we're like, fuck, forgot, and it's always about 5 or 6 different things that we forget.
The night there'll be
and
something.
It winds me up every single time.
You'll be thinking the night, fuck.
And even though we've added this stuff in, there will be something that we've not mentioned, and it does my tits in every time.
Yeah. So film, I would quite happily have anybody play me in the film. I'd quite happily anybody be in the film. What these film directors are telling me is that it has got Hollywood written all over it as a real life train spotting. So if I'm patient, I will get the big name actors to play it because it's all funding. It's all to do with money. Oh. If I get the big enough money in, then that'll happen. So I'm just sort of bumbling along just now, doing what I'm doing, prison visits and podcasts, and I was on Edinburgh Live, trying to reach out to reporters and journalists and saying, look, I didn't want any money. Can you just help me share my life story in the book and make people aware as best as you can? So that's where I'm at just now. The future.
Who fucking knows?
Mate, it's like that. It's like I tell people to follow their dreams. Everybody, regardless, just follow your dreams. See if you fail. So what? At least you tried.
That's it.
At least you tried.
It's exactly the way we started this podcast, because I've always had like a real annoyance for like 9-to-5 jobs and stuff like that. I can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
I've tried and tried so many times to do it, and I always fail. And I even put myself into like financial jeopardy a lot of the time to get out of these jobs. So I need to do something creative with my life. So I thought I need to fucking jump on this and just go in. And we've wasted a lot of money trying to like just start these things.
Yeah.
But again, you have to just keep doing it.
Go with
So
it. Even if people are telling you that you're daft, you're stupid, you're wasting your time, you stick at it. You just keep going because only you know what you want to be doing. It's not for other people to tell you what you should be doing.
That's it. That's exactly.
You know, and that's where I'm at. People fucking laugh at me when I say that I'm. When I said I was going to be an author, people laugh. When I say, probably people now, when I say I'm talking about a feature film, the people the likes of Leo Gregory, there'll be people fucking laughing, saying, ha ha ha, who does he think he is? Leo Gregory is not going to play him in a film. Like, watch me. Like, you know, if he doesn't, so what?
That's it.
Like, at least I tried, you know? And I'm confident that I'll get to where I need to go. Just keep chipping away, doing what I'm doing. That's all I can do.
Definitely.
And that's where I need to be, is just keep doing the little bits and pieces.
Right, is there anything we need to cover before we
There
go
will
off?
be, but I didn't know what it is right now, so it's like one of these things, mate. So,
Well, all I can say is thank you for coming, Boggie. Jesus
call me
Christ.
Boggie, my mates call me Boggie.
Yeah,
aye.
cool. Thank you for coming. Much appreciated, man.